What's up, guys? So I wanted to come on here and just share my thoughts about Jeet Kune Do, what it is, and why there's so much confusion as to what Jeet Kune Do is, and sort of how I think through it and why I teach it the way that I do. To really understand Jeet Kune Do, it helps if you understand the history. There are a lot of different factions, and the reason for that is because Bruce Lee was a continually evolving martial artist. And so in his lifetime, he certified 3 people in his art of Jeet Kune Do: Taki Kimura, James Yim Lee, and Dan Inosanto. And each of these men were certified at different periods in Bruce Lee's life. What he was calling Jeet Kune Do changed a lot. And so you see that reflected in the different instructors. And in fact, my lineage is through Dan Inosanto, but I did have the opportunity to train with Taki Kimura, Bruce Lee's first instructor. He knows my instructor, and so he invited me to come train with his group. And it felt like night and day different. Taki Kimura's felt so much more like a Wing Chun class, whereas I would say at my gym growing up, it had more of a kickboxing feel. And so that's just a result of Bruce Lee's own evolution as he moved from place to place. Now, when Bruce Lee passed away, he was still very young. He was 32 years old. And Bruce Lee had never really set out a direction to take Jeet Kune Do after his death. And so everybody was left with, what is the best way to honor Bruce Lee's legacy? And this is where you see a divide between what became known as original Jeet Kune Do and Jeet Kune Do Concepts. Those in the original Jeet Kune Do camp felt that the best way to keep Jeet Kune Do from getting watered down was to ensure that Jeet Kune Do was passed on exactly as it had been passed on to them from Bruce Lee. So no changes were made, the techniques were all kept the same. The Jeet Kune Do Concepts camp felt that the best way to honor Bruce Lee's art of Jeet Kune Do is to continue to evolve it. That the philosophy that drove Jeet Kune Do was the idea of continual evolution, and that to freeze Jeet Kune Do at any time period in Bruce Lee's life would be to actually kill it. You'd still have the techniques, but the heart and soul of Jeet Kune Do would be dead. Now you can see where issues would arise with either camp. On the original Jeet Kune Do side, the question becomes, well, whose version of Jeet Kune Do is the right one? Because what Taki Kimura was taught by Bruce Lee and what Dan Inosanto was taught by Bruce Lee were very different because of the time periods in which they were training with Bruce Lee. Now, the problem that arises on the Jeet Kune Do concept side is who gets to be the authority on what direction Bruce Lee would have taken Jeet Kune Do. Dan Inosanto is considered probably the main spearhead of the Jeet Kune Do Concepts camp. This has led some people to not want to put themselves in that camp because they don't actually feel that the direction that Dan Inosanto is taking Jeet Kune Do is necessarily the direction Bruce Lee was going to take it. And honestly, I have all the respect in the world for Dan Inosanto. I've been to a few of his seminars. I believe that Dan Inosanto is an amazing and accomplished martial artist in his own right, but I do feel that he has gone on his own path that is not really the same path that Bruce Lee was on personally. You've got people like Matt Thornton, who is a Jeet Kune Do instructor that founded the Straight Blast Gym, which has produced some of the best MMA fighters, including Conor McGregor. And if you watch Conor McGregor's fighting style, it has a very Jeet Kune Do look to it. But with the advent of MMA, Matt Thornton essentially felt that MMA accomplished a lot of what Bruce Lee was trying to do, and he felt that that was a little bit more in line with the direction he felt Bruce Lee was going, rather than the Jeet Kune Do Concepts approach. So this explains why there's such a splintering off of perspectives around Jeet Kune Do. And I personally like that there are so many different factions, because I think a different faction might be right for you depending on what your goals are. So if your goal is more the art and the history of Jeet Kune Do, you might actually prefer an original Jeet Kune Do approach. Whereas if you're looking for the most practical expression of Jeet Kune Do, you might look at one of the camps that maybe leans more MMA. And then if you really enjoy the beauty of the Filipino martial arts, which Dan Inosanto tends to blend a lot more into the way that he teaches Jeet Kune Do, you might go that route. So now I'd like to share how I approach Jeet Kune Do. I break Jeet Kune Do down into 3 core aspects. The first I call scientific street fighting. That was a term that Bruce Lee gave to Jeet Kune Do. And I like that because that's what I think really captures what Bruce Lee was trying to do. My instructor, Sifu Chris Kent, used to always emphasize Bruce Lee wasn't trying to create another style. He wasn't taking the 1,001 styles that already existed and now making it 1,002. Rather, instead, he was trying to strip away styles and go, when you get rid of names and labels and you just look at the essence of fighting as it is with no filters, what do you see? What is fighting when you take off all the filters and you look at it purely through body mechanics and principles of movement? In other words, if you approach it scientifically. Another way to put it is that Bruce Lee was looking for the common threads that ran through the various arts. When they worked, what made those work? What were the common principles? So instead of just grabbing techniques from different arts and putting them together, what Bruce Lee was trying to do was understand the best way to throw your punch or your kick. Somebody might look at that and say, oh, okay, so that's a Muay Thai kick. So a Jeet Kune Do kick is a Muay Thai kick, or a Jeet Kune Do kick is a Taekwondo kick, or a Jeet Kune Do cross is a boxing cross. But as my instructor used to always say, it's not a Muay Thai kick, or a Savate kick, or a Taekwondo kick, or a boxer's cross. It's your kick or your cross if you can use it and if you understand the mechanics that make it work. So that's the first phase. The second phase is what I call bare knuckle fencing. Again, borrowing a term from Bruce Lee. A lot of what Bruce Lee was doing that is unique, he actually referred to as fencing without a sword or bare knuckle fencing, because he was borrowing principles of fencing and putting it into Jeet Kune Do. Jeet Kune Do means the way of the intercepting fist. And that has a lot to do with why Bruce Lee preferred strong side forward, because it's easier to intercept with the front side tools than it is the rear side tools, because they're further away from the target. And so when people get to a certain point, then we start to lean into the bare knuckle fencing aspect of Jeet Kune Do. And then the third stage is personal expression. And this is where you explore and you experiment and you try things, and maybe you study other styles and absorb what's useful for them and see where they fit into your structure as a fighter. I've got an old book from Dan Inosanto where he talks about Jeet Kune Do being a laboratory, a place to experiment. And I love that analogy. As you get better at Jeet Kune Do, you start to explore and find your own path. My instructor used to always emphasize to us that Jeet Kune Do is a thinking man's art, that you are not just supposed to be told what to do and how to think. Instead, you are supposed to look at fighting as a problem, and it's your job to find the solution. And he would teach us things from the perspective of, here are some tools that have been proven to work, but it's up to us to see if they work for us and to figure out how to use them for us, or if we find other solutions that fit us better. If all that Bruce Lee gave us were a set of techniques that he liked, then I don't think Jeet Kune Do would be that impressive, and ultimately it would be outdated. But the heart and soul of Jeet Kune Do is found in the principles and the philosophy behind the techniques. And that's where I think the real value and timelessness of Jeet Kune Do is, and the depth. So to sum things up, I think the best way to honor Jeet Kune Do is to continue to evolve it, but to stick with the foundational principles that Bruce Lee taught and that he left behind. And you can actually find a really good list of exactly what principles Bruce Lee felt were at the center of Jeet Kune Do inside of his book, The Tao of Jeet Kune Do. Now, this book is a collection after Bruce Lee died, so he did not sit down and write this, but inside The Tao of Jeet Kune Do, on this older version, it's on page 23. I'm not sure about the newer one, but he actually has a section called The Facts of Jeet Kune Do. And in it, he lists out 16 of the core principles that underlie Jeet Kune Do. I hope this helps out, and if you like my approach to Jeet Kune Do, awesome. If you don't, I hope I at least pointed you in the right direction for you. Bye, bye, bye.
You see, actually, I do not teach, karate because I do not believe in styles anymore. I mean, I do not believe that there is such thing as like Chinese way of fighting or the Japanese way of fighting or whatever way of fighting, because unless human beings have 3 arms and 4 legs, we will have a different form of fighting. But basically, we have only 2 hands and 2 feet. So styles tends to not only separate man, because they have their own doctrines, and then the doctrine became the gospel truth, that you cannot change, But if you do not have styles, if you just say, well, here I am, as a human being, how can I express myself totally and completely? Now, that way, you won't create a style, because style is a crystallization, I mean, that way, it's a process of continuing growth.
How would you like to join me for a 21-day Fit Warrior Challenge? This is an opportunity to dial in your fitness, dial in your nutrition, get yourself some accountability so you can start to crush your goals in this new year. If you're like me, you put on a few extra pounds this year and you're ready to get that off. What I want to do is take the amazing community I'm building here on YouTube and get us together and actually do something together as a team. This will be absolutely free. I'll be going live 3 days a week starting February 9th, teaching a beginner's lesson in Jeet Kune Do. You'll also get a tracking sheet that will track your workouts and your nutrition, and you'll get a meal plan that we've had a ton of success with in our own gym. If this is something you want to join me on, then go to the link in the description, fill out the form, and I will keep you notified as we get closer. I'll send you everything you need, and I'll let you know when I'll be going live on YouTube. All right, guys. Bye, bye, bye.